Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital reveals that on the heels of Willow Tate being set up not shamefaced of firing and trying to kill her hubby, Cain Quartermain, she went and did it again. Willow jammed a hype into Drew's neck after they heeded to their future. So, is he dying for real this time? We're going to bandy whether or not Drew is dead meat after Willow made another attempt on his life, or what seems to be an attempt. When Drew turns up in a medical extremity, the question is, will Willow get down with it again? I know one thing: a pile of suckers would cheer if Drew drops dead from whatever Willow fitted him with. I see commentary on cleaner social media and then on the vids all the time where people are worried that Drew didn't formally die when she shot him. And they wished Willow had aimed better. Willow, acquitted of firing Drew before trying murder again on General Hospital this week, saw an inconceivable turn of events. Despite Alexis Davis designedly trying to ruin her ending argument so Willow would be condemned, the jury acquitted her. Now DA Justine Turner wants Dante Falconeri to make a case against Michael Corinthos. The moment the jury chief read the verdict, Willow officially got down with the firing. Also, she went home with Drew, and Nina Reeves brought in some champagne to celebrate. But Drew transferred Nina down, commodity I go he rude, as he collapsed to the living room bottom. It's crazy that Willow didn't indeed stay a day before plunging a hype into her awful hubby Drew's neck. But perhaps it's crazy smart. As he was laying there on the bottom about to lose knowledge, Willow eerily told Drew, "Everything will work out." And also Willow said, "You'll see." Those were the same exact words Drew spoke to the print on his mantle of the two of them when he'd gotten her engagement ring out of the safe. He said them just before Willow put 2 pellets in his reverse. So, it was a really nice message. General Hospital spoilers: Lucas Jones and Elizabeth Weber reply to a medical crisis at GH. Some General Hospital spoilers for this week hint that GH suckers may get their want and Drew may die. On Tuesday's occasion, we've got Lucas Jones and Elizabeth Weber springing into action, which sounds like a medical extremity at GH. Obviously, Willow's going to call 911. She has to, so she doesn't look shamefaced of whatever this is. Also, on Wednesday's occasion, Lucas delivers ruinous news that points to a medical extremity that didn't turn out veritably well for the victim. I suspect what Willow cured Drew with either kills him or puts him into a coma. Because of that ruinous part of the spoiler. Of course, if Willow kills him or puts Drew into a long-term coma, she'd obviously pretend that she's devastated. But I go Willow will only be devastated if Drew survives when she was trying again to kill him. A calculated General Hospital nurse. Willow uses her medical training for a deadly plan. Consider this: Willow's a nanny. She has knowledge about specifics and access to a whole bunch of different kinds of medicines. Now, if I recall rightly, she's not working at the sanitarium at the moment because of the trial. But just like she snuck into the Quartermain mansion to steal the gun, she could have snuck into General Hospital to steal the medicine she demanded. For a while, it looked like Nellie Benson was the bad twin. But now we're seeing a veritably advised, devious, and dangerous side of Willow. This seems like her alternate premeditated murder attempt. However, it could be that the medicine Willow gave Drew caused him to have a heart attack, if she was intending to kill Drew. I did a little exploration on what kind of medicine would kill notoriety and be hard to trace in a toxicology test or in necropsy. She can't use digitalis. Because Cyrus Renaud went around killing people with that. And they're presumably testing that on anybody that dies at General Hospital. However, I would be veritably suspicious if I was one of the chiefs of staff dealing with it. How Willow could use potassium chloride to mimic a heart attack? Still, Willow might have fitted Cain Quartermain with high-cure potassium chloride. It can beget an immediate cardiac arrhythmia and it would look like an unforeseen onset heart attack. And it's not locked up that tight at the sanitarium. Potassium chloride is stored on crash wagons. It's a common medicine that they put by low boluses in IVs. So, it's not commodity that would be kept under crazy cinch and key like serious anodynes, opioids, or anesthetics. It's generally administered in low boluses. But a high cure fitted presto into an 4 or a neck tone, like Willow did to Drew, can absolutely be fatal. After injection, it takes about a nanosecond for the victim to collapse and it mimics a credible but massive heart attack. That's exactly what we saw. Willow fitted him and Drew was down and out in about a nanosecond. I also looked up whether there can be delayed cardiac issues after a near-fatal firing like Drew's, commodity where Willow can call 911 and make the whole heart attack thing feel presumptive. My exploration showed that in a firing like his, scar towel could make Drew more prone to cardiac problems. Stunner. Could Drew's death be criticized on former trauma? They may write off what Willow cured him with to moping heart strain from all of Drew's blood loss from the firing or the surgery that saved his life. It could be leftover complications. Trauma cases have an advanced threat of unforeseen cardiac events months after the fact. So, Willow could avoid debutation. And Drew's death could be explained by scar towel or effects from the firing itself. My exploration also showed that there have been real-life potassium chloride death cases. There was a nanny periodical killer who used that same medicine to kill cases. She went undetected for a while. Because they allowed. Her victims were suffering natural heart attacks. Because your body's potassium chloride situations go up naturally after you die. That's commodity Willow would know with her medical training. There's another medicine called succinylcholine. It's harder to spell and veritably hard to say. Willow might have used it as it causes total palsy and asphyxiation that leads to cardiac arrest. However, it would also beget an unforeseen collapse, a heart attack, if she used that medicine on Drew. That medicine is also veritably hard to describe in necropsy. Because it breaks down in the body really presto. Will Michael Corinthos face murder charges if Drew dies on General Hospital? While suckers would presumably cheer if Willow really did kill Drew this time, I tend to suspect he may survive like a cockroach does indeed in nuclear war. He may survive whatever Willow cured him with but wind over in a coma. We know that Cameron Matheson could need time off to retake Christmas pictures. He does them every time for Great American Family. However, they could have had Willow medicine him so he could be out screen for a bit, if Cameron Matheson demanded time off. Also again, GH may be giving suckers what they really want, a late Christmas present, and they may kill Drew. I suppose Willow could get down with it. Because it'd be crazy for her to try again to kill Drew right after she was acquitted. She may hope that it's so egregious that it's overlooked. What's indeed wilder is if it looks like a heart attack that the croakers decide is due to the trauma of the firing. That could be bad. Because Michael is under disquisition now from the PCPD. There have been cases where notoriety is shot but they live. And the shooter is charged with tried murder. But also they end up dying laterally as a result of injuries from the firing and the charges get upgraded to murder one. So Willow may get down with it. But Michael is on the PCPD's radar now. However, that could put Michael in a much more precarious position, if she does kill Drew. I guess we'll know by Wednesday if Drew really does protest the bucket. However, we'll have a lot of cleaner suckers celebrating and plenitude of people in Port Charles saying, oh well, if he does. Guess it's air. Drew Cain will suffer a massive stroke while Willow Cain offers up some fake despair. Britt Westbourne will also face a grim claim, so there'll be a lot passing in Port Charles. Before we dive in, we should mention that GH was pirated for news content on Tuesday, January 20th. That means the occasion has been pushed back and will now state on Wednesday, January 21st, but we've got some juicy details on what's coming up. For starters, Willow will pretend she's in a fear as paramedics rush Drew to GH. Willow will offer up a fake story about Drew warbling his words and acting like half his face was melting before getting Elizabeth Baldwin's comforting clinch. Nina Reeves will also get updates on Drew's hospitalization and will embrace Willow as she continues to turn on the waterworks. Tracy Quartermain will pop up stewing one of the children might be hurt, but Willow will contend this is about Drew rather. As for Kai Taylor, he'll light at Willow as she puts on this distraught woman facade and flash back to a discussion with Trina Robinson about Willow shooting Drew doubly. Lucas Jones will ultimately appear and reveal that Drew has putatively suffered a massive stroke. That means Drew could face a slew of complications including aphasia, limited mobility, or indeed full locked-in pattern. Tracy will eventually allude to Nina about Drew getting his air while Willow intimately disposes of the hype. She used on Drew in a sanitarium waste vessel. Over with Britt, she'll show off her new office to Jason Morgan and make plans for another date with him. Unfortunately, WSB director Ross Cullum will have other plans since he'll drive Britt to vanish to Ladle Island so she can get the design up and running in 3 months. Britt will dispute with Cullum before eventually agreeing to come to Windmere tonight. Since Jason was formerly an issue at the Five Poppies Resort, Cullum will advise Britt to get Jason out of her life, or differently he'll do it for her. After Trina opens up to Ava Jerome about her renewed love with Kai, she'll fret over the peril Ava might be in due to her connection to Jen Sidwell. Ava won't be concerned since she knows how to handle men like Sidwell and will point out that she's looking after Lucas, too. At the Quartermain manse, Michael Corinthos will rile Harrison Chase when he wonders how long until he's back in Willow's bed. Chase will throw the first punch, but Michael will give him enough good beatdown in return. Jason will break up the fight, so Chase will stomp off while Michael ices his jaw. Michael won't want his kiddies under Drew's roof again, so Jason will promise that they won't let that be. At the sanitarium, Portia Robinson will have a hail to decide whether she'll be reinstated on a probationary base or fired. We'll see Portia make a strong case for why she should be kept on staff, including the part where she saved Drew's life despite her abomination for him. Curtis Ashford will also speak with Laura Collins on Portia's behalf and put aside their issues to fight for her job. As for Isaiah Gannon, he'll clash with Stella Henry compactly, but he'll move her to cut Portia some slack. Stella and Portia will change justifications in the end. Port Charles has never been a town that sleeps easily, but lately it barely seems to breathe at all. Every corner of the city feels charged, as if the air itself knows something terrible and transformative is unfolding. This is a baptism not of water and peace, but of fire and consequence, a cleansing that comes through pain, betrayal, and the raw truth of what people will do to survive, to control, and to win. On the heels of a courtroom shocker that left half the town furious and the other half stunned, Willow Tate emerged not guilty in the eyes of the law. The jury cleared her of shooting her husband, Drew Cain Quartermain, and attempting to take his life. Freedom should have meant a fresh start, a second chance to step into the light. Instead, it marked the beginning of something far darker. A toast that turned into a trigger. The champagne sparkled, the glasses clinked, and for a brief moment, it looked like Willow and Drew were stepping into a future together, one built on forgiveness, survival, and the illusion of love. Nina Reeves hovered nearby, hopeful and cautious all at once, sensing that peace in this family never lasts long. Then Drew did something that would haunt him. He sent Nina away. Left alone in the living room, the couple's celebration twisted into a scene straight out of a nightmare. Drew's body betrayed him without warning. His knees buckled, his words slurred, and he crumpled to the floor. Willow didn't scream. She didn't panic. She moved. With eerie calm, she drove a syringe into Drew's neck. As his eyes fluttered and the world slipped out of his grasp, Willow leaned close and whispered words that echoed like a curse and a promise all at once. "Everything will work out," she said softly. "You'll see." They were the same words Drew had spoken to their engagement photo not long ago, when he had believed their love could survive anything. Now, those words became a chilling benediction. Will this be the end of Drew Cain? The question rippled through Port Charles like a shockwave. Had Willow truly tried to kill him again? And if so, would she finally succeed? Fans across the city, and far beyond it, weren't shy about their opinions. Some openly admitted they wouldn't mourn Drew if this was his final chapter. Online chatter buzzed with dark humor and bitter satisfaction, the kind that grows when a character becomes a lightning rod for anger. But inside the story, the stakes were anything but humorous. Willow had just beaten the system. She had walked free from a courtroom where even her own attorney, Alexis Davis, had seemed to sabotage the closing argument in a last-ditch attempt to see justice served. Now, barely hours later, she was standing over her husband's fallen body. If this was another attempt on his life, it wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. The nurse who knew too much. Willow isn't just a wife. She's a nurse. That detail changes everything. She understands medications, dosages, and how the body reacts when something goes wrong. She knows what leaves a trace and what disappears. She knows how to create a crisis that looks like nature taking its course instead of a hand pushing fate along. Even though she hasn't been clocking in at General Hospital lately because of the trial, Willow has proven before that locked doors and rules don't stop her. She found a gun at the Quartermain mansion. Slipping into a hospital to access a drug cart would hardly be beyond her reach. What she injected into Drew remains a mystery, but the results were immediate and terrifying. Within a minute, he was down, gasping, his body spiraling into a medical emergency that would send him racing toward General Hospital. A heart attack, or something worse? Speculation spread as quickly as the ambulance sirens. Some wondered if Willow had chosen something that would stop Drew's heart cold, a substance that would mimic a massive cardiac event. Others suspected she aimed not for death, but for something almost as devastating, a coma, a silent existence where Drew would be alive but unable to expose her. One theory whispered through the hospital halls was that a powerful dose of potassium chloride could have been the weapon of choice. In low amounts, it's a common medication. In high doses, delivered fast, it can send the heart into fatal chaos. The cruel genius of such a choice would be in its aftermath. After death, potassium levels rise naturally in the body. Proving foul play becomes a nightmare. Another possibility lingered in the shadows, a drug that causes total paralysis, suffocating the body from the inside out before the heart finally gives up. Something that vanishes from the bloodstream before anyone can catch it. If Willow was aiming to disappear Drew without leaving fingerprints, she may have chosen perfectly. Trauma as a convenient alibi. Drew's past offered Willow an unexpected shield. Months earlier, he had survived a brutal shooting and major surgery. Doctors knew that trauma like that could leave the heart vulnerable long after the scars faded. A sudden cardiac event wouldn't be unthinkable. If Drew died, it might be written off as a delayed consequence of blood loss, surgical stress, or weakened tissue. And in a twisted turn of fate, the blame might not land on Willow at all. It could land on Michael Corinthos. A dangerous domino effect. Michael was already under the microscope. The PCPD had him in their sights, thanks to DA Justine Turner's push to build a case. If Drew succumbed to what looked like complications from the original shooting, the legal system could escalate the charges. Attempted murder could become murder. Willow, the woman who pulled the trigger and then plunged the syringe, might walk away untouched. Michael, the man who swore he never shot Drew, could be dragged into a nightmare he didn't create. The hospital baptism begins. General Hospital became the epicenter of everything. Willow called 911, her voice trembling just enough to sell the story. Paramedics rushed in, loaded Drew onto a stretcher, and sped him through the emergency doors. Elizabeth Weber was one of the first to respond, wrapping Willow in a comforting hug as she listened to a carefully crafted tale. Drew had complained of a splitting headache, Willow said. His words had started to blur. One side of his face had seemed to droop. Liz believed her. Most people did. Nina arrived soon after, pulling her daughter into an embrace, whispering encouragement, clinging to hope. But not everyone was convinced. Kai's suspicion. Kai Taylor watched from the edges of the waiting room, his gaze never leaving Willow's face. As she sobbed and clutched her mother, his mind replayed an earlier conversation with Trina Robinson. Trina had been blunt. Willow had shot Drew twice. That memory burned as he studied Willow's performance. The tears. The shaking hands. The perfectly timed despair. Was it grief, or was it theater? Lucas delivers the blow. When Lucas Jones finally stepped forward, the room went silent. Drew, he explained, appeared to have suffered a massive stroke. The words carried weight that no amount of medical jargon could soften. A stroke meant uncertainty. It meant a long road, if there was a road at all. Lucas listed the possibilities. Difficulty speaking. Trouble moving. A life that might never return to what it was. Then he mentioned the most extreme outcome. Locked-in syndrome. A body frozen in place. A mind fully aware. A man trapped inside himself, unable to warn anyone, unable to tell the truth. Willow covered her face and cried. Tracy Quartermain, standing nearby, muttered something about karma under her breath. Evidence in the shadows. At some point during the chaos, Willow slipped away to the restroom. From her purse, she pulled out the syringe. She didn't hesitate. She dropped it into a hospital sharps container and walked back out, her secret sealed behind plastic and protocol. The city would debate motives and outcomes. The proof was already gone. Encouraging words in dark places. Not every moment in Port Charles was steeped in betrayal. Jason Morgan offered Michael quiet reassurance after breaking up the fight with Harrison Chase. He reminded him that survival wasn't just about beating enemies, it was about holding on to the people who mattered. At the hospital, Isaiah Gannon stood by Portia Robinson as she faced a board that could end her career. He told her she was a good doctor. That one terrible decision didn't erase a lifetime of saving lives. Even Stella Henry, who had clashed with Portia bitterly, found it in herself to apologize. The two women shared a moment of raw honesty, a small bridge over a widening family divide. These were the gentle words, the ones that tried to heal instead of wound. Angry threats echo through town. But for every encouragement, there was a threat. Ross Cullum cornered Britt Westbourne in her shiny new office, turning her small victory into a cage. He demanded she disappear to Spoon Island and get a secret project running in 3 months, or else. He reminded her how easily her medication could vanish. He warned her that Jason Morgan was a liability. If Britt didn't cut him out of her life, Cullum promised to do it for her. Across town, Sonny Corinthos leaned into DA Justine Turner, questioning her ability to prosecute his son fairly. When she insisted justice had to be served, Sonny suggested something far more dangerous. Maybe the case shouldn't move forward at all. Maybe Drew had gotten what he deserved. Fists and fractures. At the Quartermain mansion, words failed and fists took over. Michael and Chase's argument spiraled out of control, fueled by jealousy, blame, and the shared fear of what Willow's freedom meant for their children. Chase threw the first punch. Michael finished the fight. Jason stepped in before things went further, but the damage was done. Chase left with a vow of revenge. Michael stayed behind, pressing ice to his jaw, wondering how much more he could lose. Ava's warning. At Bad Gen Cafe, Trina confided in Ava Jerome about her rekindled romance with Kai. The happiness in her voice faded when she mentioned Jen Sidwell. She had heard he was dangerous. Ava waved it off, claiming she knew how to handle men like Sidwell. She even mentioned Lucas was staying under Sidwell's roof and doing just fine. But Trina's concern lingered. In Port Charles, danger rarely announces itself.